Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. Welcome to the Tisch WNET studio in the heart of New York City. It is our honor, our pleasure. For the first time, not for the last. Don't be startled.
Not for the last. I was startled.
I see the chemistry already. You feel it?
Yeah, no, it's a little tense.
It doesn't
in
last
a good
with me.
way. Yeah.
We are joined by Lee Woodruff, who is co-founder of the Bob Woodruff Foundation. How you doing?
I'm great, I have to say. Yeah, lots of irons in the fire, but this is an exciting time.
The Bob Woodruff Foundation is a powerful and important one. Explain it.
We have a story. We were walking sort of in the boots of military families when Bob was injured. But
2006, right?
Yes, in January. Bob got the same care, the same incredible attention that all of our service members do when they're in the acute care stage. But then it was after that our journeys differed because Bob, with ABC and Disney, we were given everything for him to recover. And we were acutely aware that those who had served and volunteered to serve, which is such an incredible point to remember, were not necessarily when they came home. So we decided that if Bob recovered, we would create this foundation. We would use our story and all the attention that we were getting from his documentary, our book, what have you, to turn it back on the people that needed it most. So we started this foundation. We had no idea what we were doing.
No idea, but it's so interesting. And back when it happened, a little more than 10 years ago?
Yeah, coming up on 11.
Yeah. So when it happens, Bob's working for ABC, literally right across the street from where we are at the public television, WNET here. And he is one of the most recognized journalists in the country, and he's in the war zone, and this happens. Now, you are in Disney at the time?
I am. I have 4 children, so they were
Ages?
young, 5, 12, and 14 at the time. We were shooting a TV pilot down there. And
because you're a journalist.
I am, yeah. And it was our wake-up call at 7 o'clock. Only it wasn't the wake-up call. It was right at 7. It was David Weston, the president of ABC News, who was telling me that Bob his convoy had come under attack, and they believe he'd taken shrapnel to the brain. He was going into surgery, and I needed to just tell whoever I needed to tell, because it was 6 hours later, of course, in Iraq, and this was huge news, and they weren't going to be able to hold it back much longer. So that was my wake-up call.
Yeah. And your life changes, your children, your family, Bob's. And that journey, I don't even want to ask this question because it simplifies and minimizes something that the vast majority of us couldn't even comprehend. How would you describe how it's changed your family?
I'm going to correct you just for a second, because I think the vast majority of us can comprehend some part of that. When I talk to people, I do a lot of grief and loss and fear. Those are all the same thing.
Grief, loss, and fear.
They are. And so whether you're dealing with a spouse who, God forbid, has cancer or disease, or a child hit by a drunk driver, there are so many of us who go down this road. And a roadside bomb, that's pretty dramatic. But I think the journey is the same. And I think that's why our story and maybe the foundation and the genesis of it is still so relevant, because we're all built to survive, and I couldn't have told you that at the time. But I know so many people who have gotten that call, where life changed in an instant, to take the title of our book. And I do believe it's all the same. You respond maybe in different ways. And my first response was about the kids. I call myself the general. And so anything else had to, my own grief, my fear, my, oh my God, my life partner, my best friend. It was first all about the kids and how to tell them and how to make this thing not define their lives.
How did you know, did you have any idea that you were that strong?
I'm a pretty feisty thing. I think you've already gotten that concept.
Where'd you grow up?
In Albany, New York. I'm an upstater, yeah, which is probably closer to a Yankee than it is to a New Yorker in some ways. So we're tough, we're thrifty, we don't ask for much, but we can get through some cold winters. And this was really a challenge. But I look back on that experience, Stephen, you see everything in hindsight. And I talk often when I speak to groups about the 4 Fs, excuse me, that took me through. And I realized in hindsight they all started with F. And I think they're everybody's 4. It's family, friends, faith, and funny. And that funny part is just as important as the believing in miracles.
Where's the funny part here?
You just have to have a sense of humor. We were so inappropriate in the hospital.
Inappropriate?
Yeah. We would make jokes all the time. We would laugh. But, I read this thing that I thought finally nailed it. gallows humor works because when you laugh at the thing that has its chokehold on you, you take its power away. So when you see people laughing at crazy situations, that's what we're doing. It's a coping mechanism. And we laughed with Bob's producer, with, the family, with the nurses, with the docs. I think they were all sort of looking at me like, she's a crazy lady. But we would make jokes about Bob being in a hospital gown in a coma for 5 weeks and the nurses not being impressed, whatever it was.
Not being impressed.
Whatever it was, we just had to laugh.
Wow. So today, the foundation. By the way, this Madison Square Garden event.
Yes, Stand Up for Heroes.
Stand Up for Heroes. It just had the 10th anniversary?
We did.
Describe it, because all the folks who matter are there to raise tons of money for an extraordinary cause.
And the folks that matter, boy, some incredible talent. Bruce Springsteen, Jon Stewart, Jerry Seinfeld, Louis C.K. It's a little hard.
The B-listers.
The B-listers. These guys all donate their time. Wow. They don't send us a bill for a thing. They show up. They give it to the front rows. So we have 100 vets and their caregivers flown in. It's a 3-day event of love and makeovers and yoga and meditation and whatever they want. We do tours around the city. And these guys come and perform. And Bruce has been there every single year. And we raise money for the foundation and give it back in more than 400 different groups and over $35 million given away for all different purposes to help with the transition. So we come in after the medical part is finished. It's that public-private coalition. When the government has finished doing what they're doing or only does a part of it, there's this wonderful consortium of nonprofits in the veteran space that can help.
What do folks need right then? What do they need the most?
Do you know what I'm most worried about right now is mental health.
Mental health.
We actually have a lower veteran unemployment rate right now than we do the civilian rate because companies and people have stepped up. They know that employing a veteran is a smart thing to do. But it's the mental health stigma. It's the fact that these guys have had multiple deployments. So when you come back and you haven't had time to go through any kind of neurocog or any kind of rehab to deal with that, and we're still learning, you've got combat stress, post-traumatic stress, issues with intimacy. Anybody who's been in multiple concussions probably has some neurological stuff going on. They're flat. They feel like your brother, not your husband. There's a whole host of stuff.
And the rest of us. I often say this to veterans who've been on the program. The whole expression, we thank you for your service. And I ask, what does that mean? What impact does it have? Is it nearly enough? What else can we do? What does it mean, do you think, to most? And how much more can we do?
Yeah.
Other than putting up your website and asking people to be helpful.
Just rip a check off right now.
Other than that.
Yeah. No, money and donations do help, and we're the most generous nation in the world. And I always say to people, there's so many great causes in America, but this is the one that affects absolutely everyone. Because whether you're a hawk or a dove, whether you believe in war or don't think we should have been involved at all, it doesn't matter. America is not a great country because we have a great military. We're a great country because we have a military ready to protect what's great about us. And there are kids serving, so my kids can make that choice. Kids, 23, 24. I mean, I look at these young men when I go to VA hospitals and visit or down to Bethesda Naval, and they're my son's age.
What do they say to you? By the way, my son is 24 as we speak.
Yeah.
I'm thinking right now, so can't even comprehend what you're saying.
They say,
so
we're
what
not
are they saying
heroes,
here?
ma'am. This is just our job.
We're not heroes.
Yeah. This is just our job. It's humbling. It's really humbling. Because we don't tend to see these guys, especially in New York. Other folks watching, in other places might bump up against families who have served. But we're a very bifurcated country right now. Less than 1% serve, and they serve over and over again. So I feel like everybody in this country should pay $20 on their taxes in April, and we could solve so many of the issues for these young men and women.
Instead of just simply saying, we thank you for your service, which we do.
We do, and we love it. And believe me, they don't take that the wrong way.
No, but it's not enough.
But it's not enough. We need to go beyond that. And people always say, well, how? Yeah. And I say, look for these families in your towns, or look for small ways to make big differences. A dinner, a manicure certificate. These are proud, incredible families. They're not going to ever have their hand out. But find out where they are. Go to your churches. Go to wherever, in town. Rotary. Who are these families and how can I help?
I need to do two more things. First, how's Bob doing?
He's great. I was
Is he in
joking
China
with your
right now?
team before. Yes, he is part-time in China. He's
Sticking close to home, huh?
covering, well, we have the longest commuter marriage in the world. I challenge anyone out there to beat me. We were saying maybe Australia. But he is covering Asia for ABC. So he's the ABC correspondent for all of Asia. So we're going back and forth. And he's loving it.
Last question.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by leadership. I struggled for 2 years to write a book about leadership called Lessons in Leadership. So I asked the smartest leaders this question. What's the greatest leadership lesson you have learned in your life?
To know what you don't know and to be humble enough to ask for help when you don't know, and to ask the best people around you. Because I think those people who assume that they know what they know are really horrible leaders. And I think your self-deprecation goes a long way, too.
Oh, I fooled you on that, didn't I? Thank you so much. And wishing you and your family all the best. And thank you to Bob for all the great work he's done as a journalist, continuing to make a difference. And thank you so much for the work of the foundation together.
Thanks for having us on, Steve.
Lee Woodruff, from the co-founder of the Bob Woodruff Foundation. Thank you so much. We'll be right back right after this. Thank you.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. This special edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato is brought to you from the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center. Funding has been provided by RWJ Barnabas Health, Bergen Community College, New Jersey Council of County Colleges, Wells Fargo, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, the Russell Berry Foundation, and by NJM. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.